Activists campaign to end sexual violence in Sierra Leone. Italian PM Conte resigns in split over COVID response. United Kingdom to impose hotel quarantine for returning Britons. Details of these and more after this break. I am Omoye Ogbede. A Sierra Leone man and his American friend will later today complete their long walk campaigning to end sexual violence in Sierra Leone. The two have trekked more than 300 miles in 20 days from the farthest end of the country in Kailahun district to the capital, Freetown. While on their journey, they have symbolically washed the feet of dozens of women in many towns and villages as atonement for the sexual violence men have committed against women and girls in the country. They say they want to raise funds to buy a mobile forensic lab which will help gather evidence to prosecute rape offenders. An Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has resigned, and it is not clear if he will be able to form and lead a new coalition government. Parties are divided over spending in the coronavirus crisis, in which more than 85,000 Italians have died. Conte met President Sergio Mattarella, who may ask him to form a stronger government. Last week, he lost his Senate majority, but someone else could become Italy's prime minister, or a snap election could be called. The law professor, who has headed coalition governments since 2018, tendered his resignation to the president. And now Conte is discussing the political crisis with Senate President Elisabetta Keselati. And Germany's health ministry and AstraZeneca have rejected German media reports on Monday that cast doubts on the effectiveness of the drug maker's vaccine in the elderly. AstraZeneca, a UK-Swedish company, described the reports as completely incorrect, while the health ministry said key data had been misreported. The media reports quoted anonymous German government sources. They come amid tension between the EU and AstraZeneca over vaccine supplies. And Russia's capital, Moscow, on Wednesday announced a further easing of COVID restrictions, citing the improving health situation even as many countries tighten antivirus measures. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin announced the changes as European nations look to tighten their borders, with Britain struggling to counter a brutal third wave and the Netherlands facing riots over a coronavirus curfew. From Wednesday, bars, restaurants and nightclubs, which previously were required to close by 11 p.m., will be able to remain open through the night, though they will still have to enforce social distancing and sanitary guidelines. Employers will no longer be obliged to ensure that at least 30% of their staff are working from home, with the implementation of work-from-home rules now at the discretion of companies and organizations. And British citizens returning home from roughly 30 countries deemed at high risk from new coronavirus variants have to quarantine in hotels. According to the Times and BBC, beefed-up rules will require the travelers to stay in hotels near airports for 10 days. Non-UK arrivals from the targeted destinations, which include South Africa, South America, Portugal, and Cape Verde, are already barred following the discovery of two virus variants in Brazil and South Africa. The 10-day quarantine will cost returning Britons $1,500, with meals served at the bedroom door and security guards supervising stays. Interior Minister Priti Patel is due to make a statement in Parliament later on Wednesday on the borders policy after a meeting of the government's COVID-19 Operations Committee. Housing Minister Robert Jenrick told Sky News the government would be taking further steps to ensure that there is less flow of individuals returning, but gave no further details. And Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga apologized on Wednesday after lawmakers from his ruling coalition visited 9 clubs despite his government's call for people to avoid unnecessary outings to curb the spread of COVID-19. The news is another headache for Sugar, whose approval rating has tumbled due to dissatisfaction with his handling of the pandemic, which critics have called too slow and inconsistent. Japan this month issued a state of emergency in Tokyo and other areas to tame the sharp increase in COVID-19 cases. The measure includes a request from restaurants and bars to close by 8 p.m., although there are currently no penalties for non-compliance. And that's KFM's news around the world, but before we go, a quick recap of the headlines. Activists campaign to end sexual violence in Sierra Leone. Italian PM Conte resigns in split over COVID response. United Kingdom to impose hotel quarantine for returning Britons. Do remember that the continued unity of Nigeria is a collective responsibility. Be sure to play your part. Do not forget you can listen to us anywhere in the world by visiting our website at www.kufm.net or download our mobile app from the Google Play Store. We are also on YouTube at KFM Nigeria, and you can also listen to us on RadioGarden.com. KFM's News Around the World was produced by Nusakai Uwadiai. I am Omoyo Ogbede saying thanks for listening.